What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Russian member of parliament Yevgeny Marchenko has proposed an amendment to the criminal code, suggesting that holding foreign citizenship should be considered as an aggravating factor in criminal offenses. Although Marchenko is not a famous figure in the political arena, neither does he sound smart, his proposal is unlikely to become a law. But this initiative signals a concerning shift in the government's stance towards immigrants. The decision to expand the government's list of perceived enemies to include immigrants indicates a growing trend of xenophobia and scapegoating. At this point, it is pretty obvious to everyone that one of the best ways how leaders, especially authoritarian ones, can rally and unite people is by creating an external enemy, usually a fictional one, such as a horrible West or Nazistic Ukraine for Russia. But eventually, people get tired of listening about the same problems every single day, day after day. And things just don't register anymore. That's why sometimes the governments use another tactic of fueling nations' emotions, such as hatred, most of the time. Which, as you can imagine, is an extremely powerful emotion. And this method focuses on countries' internal problems and enemies, such as, once again, immigrants, foreign agents, LGBT representatives, especially relevant for Russia, and other minorities. Just a quick note from myself, I obviously have nothing against any of these groups of people I just mentioned. And today, let's talk about this issue in depth, examine the underlying causes, the implications for Russia's economy and society, and the potential consequences of such policies. While this might provide beneficial for the government in short-term perspective, the long-term consequences are as devastating as you can imagine. Russia currently experiences severe labor shortage that threatens the stability of its economy, which only exaggerates its existing problems related to, obviously, war in Ukraine. The government's perception of the workforce appears to be based on Soviet vision, meaning that there is an unlimited supply of labor ready to be deployed wherever needed, doing whatever they're asked. The best analogy is a well-established team, for example from the NHL, NBA, NFL, you name it, where players have to constantly compete for their positions. Everyone is replaceable, and there are 100 plus well-qualified candidates for your spot. Replacing people is easy, and the pool of potential candidates is almost endless. The owners can select literally the best of the best. However, in realities of new Russia, especially the one emerged after February 2022, the labor market effectively collapsed due to an evident shortage of workers. Official statistics indicate that unemployment rates are near zero. And at first, it sounds like, finally, one country solved its employment problems once and for all. Everyone got a job. Until you start thinking about it. The real reason why the unemployment in Russia is almost 0%, well, assuming we obviously believe the official statistics, it is not because there is so many new job opportunities, but because there is so few people left willing to work in Russia. A big part of smart generation left the country looking for better opportunities. This was happening before the war, this phenomena intensified even further after the invasion, and a lot of able-bodied men were either killed or injured in Ukraine. Those who returned in one piece are mostly emotionally unstable for more or less responsible jobs. As a result, we have a country where not employees are fighting for jobs, but employers are fighting for candidates. One of the consequences of this is that they have to increase salaries to make jobs look more attractive. And in order to cover these costs, companies have to increase the prices of their products and services. All of this obviously contributes greatly towards the general inflation. So as you can see, while 0% unemployment might sound perfect on paper, in reality, a healthy 4 to 5% unemployment is needed for a properly functioning economy. Before we proceed further, I wanted to say thank you guys for still watching my videos and enjoying the new format. It was a scary decision and change for me at first, knowing that talking about Russia in current times might be complicated to say the least, and not too many people would want to hear these stories. Thank you for being open-minded and allowing me to present the vision of war from the perspective of a Russian who is opposing Putin. I hope more of you now see that there are very different people inside my country. Not all of us support the invasion. And there are people who want this war to be over as soon as possible and justice restored. I also wanted to mention that I still closely monitor the situation in Ukraine, and once significant events happen, I will most certainly talk about them. In the meantime, I continue uploading hundreds of uncensored photos and videos from Ukrainian war to my Patreon every single week. This has not changed. I don't do much promotions anymore, as you can see, guys, but if you want to support my channel, my work, the best way to do it is through my Patreon memberships, where you can get new footage every single day. And also watch these episodes in very early access, hours before they go live on YouTube. The link to my Patreon is down below, thank you so much. Now guys, let's continue. The government's response to this labor shortage has been contradictory and counterproductive. On the one hand, there is a strong emphasis on bolstering military capabilities, with significant resources allocated to defense and security sectors. Citizens are being encouraged and financially incentivized to join the military or work in defense-related industries. The sign-up bonuses and salaries are as high as in the top industries of the economy. These sectors, while important for national security, do not contribute directly to the economic productivity in terms of consumer goods and services produced. On the other hand, the government expects the same limited pool of citizens to fill labor gaps in essential industries, such as construction, agriculture, and manufacturing. The problem is, there is not that many available candidates, and the salaries are way lower than those on even military factories' assembly lines. This dual expectation places an unrealistic burden on the workforce that is already stretched thin. The relocation of labor from productive, market-driven sectors to non-productive or less economically beneficial areas further destroys the Russian economy. And I mean, yes, it helps Putin to maintain the war, but it does slowly drain the Russian resources as well. The bureaucratic environment in Russia creates another significant barrier. Complex regulations, corruption, and lack of transparency prevents business development and discourages both domestic and foreign investments. Small and medium-sized enterprises, which are essential for job creation and innovation, struggle to navigate these challenges, limiting their potential to contribute to economic recovery and growth. And absolutely the worst part about being an entrepreneur in Russia is that as soon as your business is profitable and as soon as your name is out there in the market, well, shady people, both from the government and from the criminal world, they start approaching you, wanting a piece of your company. They offer ethereal services such as protection, which is known as the roof or krysha in Russia, which basically means if you pay them, they leave you alone, and they protect you if somebody else approaches. And if you don't pay them, well, they will be the ones who will destroy your business. The criminal world approach to this is pretty self-explanatory, but the local government authorities frequently engage in the same activities, but through more so-called legal ways. If you don't pay your local administration, they will keep sending fire inspectors, police inspections, taxes representatives, and so on. And even if you are absolutely perfect and squeaky clean business, they will still find a way to extort money from you. Sometimes it can get absolutely ridiculous, and for example, right here is the real story that happened to my father. I can personally confirm, well, it is true. So, one time the fire inspection had to close the business for a day, which was suspiciously enough the very same day when a very big deal was supposed to take place. That was the first major red flag. And then they started taking all sorts of measurements, doing inspections. I mean, this was a total circus, to say the least. And in the end, they found out that the fire extinguisher is like 2 inches too far from the closet with like cleaning supplies, which was a severe violation of the fire safety. They obviously did not show neither the measurements they took nor the fire safety codex they were referring to, and the protocol of violation was already signed by some witnesses before my father could even say anything. The outcome of this story is that the business had to be closed for a month, a proper fire team had to come in, redesign the living space completely, so the fire extinguisher can be placed in an appropriate location to reduce the fire risk hazards, or you can obviously pay to make these minor inconveniences go away. Well, the choice here was obvious, but it did not stop the government representatives from sending similar inspections in the future, until eventually my father had to sell the business and open almost a similar one in just another location. Well, right here is doing business as legal as possible, Russian style, for you guys. When you don't have that many domestic employees left, and when you make it impossible for small and medium businesses to exist, a country has to rely on external workforce in order to maintain its economic stability. Migrant workers from Central Asian countries such as Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and so on, they have historically played a crucial role in Russia's economy, filling labor shortages in key industries and contributing to economic growth. These individuals often accept jobs that are less attractive to the local population and are working in challenging conditions. The salaries they get in Moscow or even any other relatively big city is enough to support the entire families. However, the attractiveness of Russia as a destination for migrant workers has diminished in recent years. Economic factors, such as currency devaluation, have reduced the value of income they send home, making other countries way more appealing. And then there is another huge problem they can't ignore: the war in Ukraine. Such people, often undocumented or in questionable legal statuses, are prime candidates to be caught and sent to Ukraine. Well, much better than taking a legal resident of Moscow and send them to fight, well, at least according to the Russian authorities. The government's approach towards migrant workers has further discouraged immigration. Policies that impose strict visa requirements, limit legal avenues for employment, and create an unwelcoming social environment, all of this contributes to a decline in the number of migrants willing to come to Russia. Instances of discrimination, harassment, and bureaucratic obstacles make it difficult for migrant workers to integrate and contribute effectively to the economy. The rise of xenophobia and nationalistic rhetoric and political narratives is another huge problem. The use of anti-immigrant sentiment as a political tool serves to divert attention from underlying economic issues and consolidate power by uniting the population against a perceived common enemy. Basically what happened is that people are getting tired of hearing about Ukrainians as the main enemy, so the regime found another, internal enemy this time. The purpose here is a little bit different. Instead of trying to unite people against the immigrants, the goal is to just increase the hatred and then channel this hatred towards familiar enemy, well, obviously Ukrainians. By sensationalizing crimes involving immigrants and portraying migrant workers as a threat to social stability, the government creates an environment of fear and mistrust. The manipulation of public opinion through controlled media narratives prevents constructive debate on important issues. Out of hundreds of thousands of immigrants, couple thousand of them, yes, are lazy and ignorant people. Couple hundred might actually be bad people, and just a dozen could end up being real merciless criminals. And guess what? Media focuses specifically on this dozen. They don't even need to generalize that every immigrant is the same. Well, the public will do it for them. While this might help Putin's propaganda just a little in the short term, the long-term consequences are much worse. There are already very few friendly towards Russia countries left. Most of them are exactly the same countries where these immigrants come from. And when they see the attitude and discrimination towards them, when their men are taken by force to fight and die in Ukraine, I highly doubt that these countries will remain friends in Russia in the future. And in order to survive in this complex world, obviously even for the government, you have to have friends. Because who is going to be there defending Putin when he finally faces justice? And lastly, speaking about the promise I made in my previous video, I told you guys that I will compare the engagement rates between YouTube videos and RuTube, the Russian equivalent. The purpose of this experiment is to see whether Russian YouTube is a viable option for bloggers and whether the numbers we see are real or not. Well, here are the results. My previous video got 33,000 views, 4.4 thousand likes, and 406 comments. That's approximately 13% of you guys leaving a like under a video and 1.2% leaving a comment. I wanted to find exactly the same type of video on Russian YouTube about Russian-Ukrainian war. Luckily it was pretty easy task, so I decided to use this video from Russia Today, giving some frontline updates. The video got 64,000 views, almost twice what I got. Well, so you might think that there will be 2 more times likes and comments as well, right? Well, here are the results. 211 likes and 28 comments. That's 0.3% of people liking the video and 0.04% leaving a comment. Using simple elementary school grade math, applying average engagement percentages to the YouTube video, the real number of views from the real people is somewhere around 1600. Well, pretty big deviation from 64,000, don't you think? Either my math is wrong or the rest 60,000+ views are fake, generated by Russian bots, just to create the illusion of support for war from the people. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, keep liking my videos and subscribing to my channel if you really enjoy the content. Don't forget about Patreon if you wish to support my work, and other useful links are down below. Thanks so much for watching, see you on Tuesday.
We won't succumb to their tricks, the facade they try to sell. Their twisted words and feeble claims are resolved they cannot quell. We see through their lies, their feeble attempts to sway. We do not believe in ridiculous Russian propaganda.